what we call kould search, which is a mission that, just for a little background, we've deployed nearly 13,000 members of the Iowa National Guard in the Global War on Terror. And the vast majority of those have been in Iraq and Afghanistan. And one of the missions that they perform in Iraq and Afghanistan on multiple occasions is kould search, where basically you are trying to get to an area, cordon it off to make sure everything's safe, and then actually search for caches of weapons or other kinds of contraband which could harm American forces and other
like Fallujah, what we saw in Fallujah.
Correct. Exactly. So because of where we're located in Iowa, there are no active duty bases in Iowa, so we kind of have to create our own urban training environments. So the plan on this particular training event was to actually use a small town of about 450 people. The town has actually kind of adopted the unit, which is called Company A, 1st Battalion, 168th Infantry, and they were more than willing to participate in the exercise.
Well, we showed you Boy Scouts being trained to be victims. They're also training them to be aggressors. In a New York Times article in 2009, it says, Scouts to train to fight terrorists and more. Oh, what would that more be? And in this article, it says their person who is helping them is A.J. Lowenthal, a sheriff's deputy. He says, this is about being a true-blooded American guy and girl. Now, they also had them not only be aggressive with SWAT team raids, they also conducted a marijuana raid. And at one point, the guy says, put him on his face and put a knee in his back. I guarantee he'll shut up. Well, that's the kind of training they're giving the Boy Scouts, not helping little ladies cross the street anymore. Just put them on their face and put a knee in their back to make them shut up. Well, we've got another clip here from Police State 2000. Now, in this one, Alex interviews a police chief from San Antonio. He had to kick out Delta Force for trying to bribe city officials in order to conduct training exercises there.
As far as we know, this is the first time that local law enforcement, local police leadership has actively stood up against Bill Clinton's new military.
What were your major reservations in asking the mayor to tell them that y'all didn't want them to train here and to cease training here?
Well, a lot of things happened. First of all, the organization came into the city, never really approached the city as a whole. We've gotten together with the mayor and said we need to speak to all these different departments and request some assistance. Various groups and individuals came into the city and approached different people at different levels. The police department was contacted, the city manager's office was contacted about using city facilities, various business owners were contacted through the economic development department, the fire department was contacted by different individuals. So there was never any coordinated approach to the city of San Antonio. When we found out, we had some reservations, but we were willing at least to listen. But then we started finding out that discussions were happening at other different levels, and there was no communication, no coordination between that. Well, then, when we said no, then some elected officials were contacted to bring pressure to bear. And then offers were made to give money, cash money, to elected officials' charities if they could get us to change our minds. I mean, as one of my deputy chiefs said, in some circles that's called bribery.
Well, we have a long history of the military and the police working together in this country, training for martial law. And Alex has pointed that out for a long time in his documentaries and on the air. What's alarming about this, however, is the increasing rate at which it is happening. As I said, we just had in the last week, we had two major cities where there were two major exercises. The one that happened just a couple of days ago in Houston, they're firing guns and attacking schools. Citizens are never notified. What is happening is we're seeing the militarization of the police, and we're seeing the military used as police. That's a very frightening perspective. We've seen that before in our country's history. We've seen it in other countries. And in spite of what the people in St. Louis said that they put on the media, that is not something that reduces crime. What it does is it makes criminals out of both the military and the police. So we hope that there'll be more people like that San Antonio police chief who have the integrity and the wisdom to stand against this.
I'm back with Stephen Albert and Wisconsin Sheriff David Clark, who this week warned that enforcing any gun laws that would deprive Americans of the right to bear arms could lead to a second American Revolution. Sheriff, you've been very vocal, and by the way, I absolutely agree with you. If you wait for 911, then shame on you. You've got to arm yourself and defend yourself once you educate yourself. Well, what's this whole idea of a second revolution? Where's that coming from?
Well, the question was, would I participate in assisting the feds coming into states and going into homes and taking everybody's gun away? And I said, I would not be a part of something like that. And I said, one of the reasons is I wouldn't want to get shot, because the American people are only going to put up with so much before they push back. And I said, if the feds tried to do that, disarm this country, I said, you would see an uprising and maybe a version of the second American Revolution, because just read the Declaration of Independence, it's right in there. So it was talking about the feds coming in, going into homes, forcing their way into homes and removing firearms. I mean, the thought is preposterous.
But you know what? The thought of it is preposterous, and people are very concerned about it. I mean, this whole idea of identifying gun owners in newspapers and chipping away at these gun rights and getting a registry. This guy's the chief, this guy McCarthy, the chief of the third largest police department in the nation, who works for Rahm Emanuel, who's so connected to the White House, is saying, you know what, we should be able to put a chip in your gun. Are you crazy?
That's why the American people bristle at the thought of a national gun registry. And if the United States, the White House or anybody, would turn over the name of gun owners in the United States to a foreign nation, to me that would be an act of betrayal on the American people. If the Mexican government deserves anything, it's more facts surrounding, as you opened up with, Fast and Furious, when the United States of America funneled guns across the border into a sovereign nation, into the hands of drug lords, and now those guns are being used to kill Mexican citizens. They should be demanding more answers about that.
I agree with you.
With the gun control debate exploding across the country, one Kentucky sheriff sending a strong message to the feds. Jackson County Sheriff Denny Payman insisting you are never going to pull guns out of Jackson County. So how does he intend to make good on that declaration? Sheriff Payman joins us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you this evening?
Very well. So tell me, what happens if President Obama issues some executive order and increases control over guns or weapons? You're not going to enforce it?
With executive order?
Yes.
Okay. Well, when I swore oath to a community, a group of people who live in Jackson County, I swore oath to the Constitution, which I swore oath also to the Constitution of Kentucky. And in that Constitution is a Second Amendment, and that's what this country is based upon. How can I rightfully, in my own mind and in my heart, come in and take guns away from people, and that is their protection? I think people have tried to compromise it, tried to tweak it, mold it to whatever best suits them financially or for whatever other reason. reasons. But it's still the Constitution. It's still what we are founded on.
All across the country, the battle over gun control has been heating up ever since the Sandy Hook school shootings up in Connecticut.
All right, and gun control measures are being proposed on both the state and national levels, angering many gun owners. Just yesterday, Senator Dianne Feinstein introduced a bill, and it's got a lot of people up in arms.
Right. In fact, Pinal County Sheriff Paul Babu has written this letter that you're looking at now to President Obama. He says the president's push for gun control is an assault on the rights of American citizens, and he says he will not follow any gun law that's created by an executive order from the president that contradicts the Constitution of the United States.
He says any such law would actually be unlawful, and neither he nor his department will follow it. Sheriff Paul Babu joins us live this morning in studio.
Thanks for coming on, Lorraine.
Good morning.
That sounds pretty aggressive, right?
It does.
Well, we got the letter, and we read it this morning, and in fact, I was kind of reading up on it. If any gun law was actually put through from the federal government, you as a sheriff do not have to enforce it or follow it. Is that true?
Well, if it actually goes through the process, the legislative process, there still may be constitutional questions and concerns that would be addressed all the way up to the Supreme Court. But clearly, this president, Obama, Eric Holder, all of these people who believe that they just can sign an executive order without the legislative process and has the same effect as law is ridiculous. And I, as a constitutionally elected sheriff, shall not only not enforce it, she'll fight this president and they're trampling on the Constitution, because this is where we're elected officials who are trustees of the public trust. This is a republic, and that our Constitution is a sacred document that anybody who's worn the uniform of our country knows you swear an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.